Happy Wednesday, everybody, and welcome to the Saratoga Podcast. Welcome, Dan. Welcome, Adam.
Hello, guys. How are you?
Here we are inside on a beautiful day.
I know we have so much to cover today, you guys, but before we do that, I just wanted to thank the literal thousands of viewers we've had over the last couple of weeks. We stream on multiple platforms. We stream on Facebook, we stream on Twitter, we stream on YouTube, and then our podcast goes out to everywhere people watch podcasts like Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon. And when we recently aggregated those numbers, we saw how many people were watching, and we were truly kind of flabbergasted because this was a podcast that we started as kind of a labor of love, and it was to really fill in the gap in local media that we saw was needed in Saratoga Springs to bring people information and opinion on city council meetings, on Board of Education meetings, and kind of just fill in that little gap. And it's been a passion project of ours, and we've just been so thrilled to see that so many people have watched it, and people have been coming us in the street and thanking us, and we just really appreciate it. And we wanted to thank everybody for watching, and we were just really floored by the numbers of late. So just wanted to say thank you to our viewers, and thank you for continuing to watch and share and really engage and pay attention to what's going on in Saratoga Springs. So right off the bat, we just wanted to say thank you for that. And then
we thank everybody, everybody causing the dysfunction in the city that has increased our numbers like that. Because there's been a direct correlation.
We probably should. And actually, I want to say something about that. As much as we do see the correlation between the abject dysfunction in City Hall and the insane fighting and the expletive-ridden rants and all this craziness, and our ratings do go up like insane numbers when that does happen, at the end of the day, the three of us want to see what's best for the city, and we realize that this dysfunction is not good for the city. And so we actually put out a few interview requests for people to come on this podcast this week. And in those conversations with some of those people, we realized, and they realized at moments, that their presence on this podcast and interviewing on this podcast would actually, in some ways, make the division worse that they were dealing with. And we didn't want to be a part of that, and they didn't want to be a part of that. And so we agreed that this wouldn't be the best time for them to come on the podcast and have an interview. And so I just kind of wanted to put that out for viewers that although we're covering this, we don't want to stoke the fire or make it any worse, because we do want to see what's best for the city, and dysfunction and the things that have happened over the last week are certainly not good things. So I think that's important for us to put out there.
And I think many of our viewers agree. They're just telling me about, and I'm not editorializing here. They're just telling me how disgusted they are. This is exhausting, right? We need a ceasefire until June 1st. We just the news. God forbid if you go to Lake George and climb up a mountain and leave your cell phone in the car, you're going to come back and there's going to be like 3 new news stories. So it's just, we would like to see this end. We know you would too, or at least subside, right? It's never going to end. It's Saratoga, but subside.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into it. What's the latest commotion?
So the latest is that we have a breaking news. A lawsuit has been filed against the mayor and the public safety commissioner from the former director of risk and safety, Marilyn Rivers, who is claiming it's a discriminatory and hostile work environment. Marilyn Rivers, through her attorney, Benjamin Hill, filed the lawsuit Monday in state Supreme Court. In the lawsuit, Rivers, who is a 2-decade employee of the city who retired in April, claims that her reputation was maligned by Kim, who repeatedly questioned her knowledge and accused her of pretending to be a lawyer representing the city in depositions. There is an article in the Daily Gazette that details this in great detail. But essentially, she says, Rivers said she filed a hostile workplace claim with the city's Human Resources Department around May 24th in 2022 regarding the accusations and other attempts by the mayor, such as speaking dismissively to her to undermine her authority. Rivers, who is over 40 and a woman, claims the hostile work environment was created because of her sex and age. And then it continues with quite a bit more detail. But it was an incredibly sad and disturbing article for me to read. I had the privilege of working with Marilyn Rivers at the city, and her job was really, really important, running the risk and safety program. She handled all of the city's insurance policies. And when I say she handled them expertly, I mean, I'm not sure I've ever worked with anyone who took such great care in terms of the level of detail that she paid attention to in terms of executing her job and knowing things in terms of the level of detail and expertise and thoroughness to which she knew and understood her job. And our insurance carriers knew that and loved her because of it. And the city benefited just tremendously from her work and saved, I don't think it's possible to even quantify how much money we saved over the years because of the work she did in risk and safety, and how much we're suffering as a city by not having her in this position. And so just to read what she had to deal with this administration, and to read that she was subject to a hostile work environment because specifically of her sex and age is just a heartbreaker. Although I can't say it's totally surprising based on all of the other things that have been coming out of City Hall, especially over the last couple of days. What are your thoughts, guys?
That's something I like to, we have a judicial system in here. And even though this is a civil case, we believe in innocent until proven guilty. But this is just one lawsuit after another lawsuit. And they're all former employees claiming hostile work environments. And a pattern like this. I mean, if I ran a business, I can't imagine what would happen to my business if there were this many hostile work environment complaints, right? So this isn't a one-off. This isn't a singular accusation. This is just a stream of accusations that City Hall is just a horrible place to work right now.
Correct.
And if we were only hearing this via lawsuits, we'd be somewhere in the middle. Like, I'm not sure. But you see the emails berating people. We're going to talk about those in a little bit. You see the videos going on. It is just the harshness going on at City Hall, in and out. It sort of gives more credence to what is being alleged here. I'm not saying I've come to a conclusion because I don't know too much about this case. And I didn't see what the damages were. I didn't see how much she was suing for. Is it 100,000? Is it 5 million? I don't know. So the article was left a few things unsaid, but nonetheless, there's a consistency in everything we hear about City Hall. So that's problematic in and of itself.
And I do recall the city council meeting during which the mayor invoked Marilyn Rivers' name while he was talking about some of these accusations in a way that I remember being shocked by, thinking like, wow, you're throwing your employees like under the bus while you're making these unsubstantiated allegations. Like I remember at the time thinking, wow, this seems like wildly irresponsible.
My question is,
he's an employment law attorney. that's the irony there.
Where is their union on all of this? I mean, to my knowledge, CSEA hasn't come out with anything yet. But multiple CSEA employees now are claiming a hostile work environment. This is why we have unions. This is everybody's rah rah pro union here. But we have unions to protect workers' rights. So I'd really love to hear what CSEA has to say about this, and I'd hope they'd issue a statement soon, regarding how they feel about their members being subject to this kind of a work environment.
Yeah, and even as Ms. Rivers, I'm guessing she was maybe a management confidential level and not in a union, but I don't know that. But regardless, Adam, to your point, the general treatment of employees at City Hall, that shouldn't happen, and the unions should stand for that. We've heard from the fire unions on some matters. We've heard from the police union on some matters, and obviously those were important to them because they were front and center with this. But this general alleged hostility in City Hall, and we've seen some of it, so it's more than alleged, at least between some parties, really has to end. And you're right, some of the unions should step up on that.
I quite agree. And I know that CSEA has filed some grievances as a union, and I know they've won some of those grievances. And so I think we should stay tuned. I would imagine we will be hearing from them.
Robin, who do they file those grievances with? Is it filed with a court or?
So I can answer that. If
go ahead, Dan.
Oh yeah, Dan, you were a union boss.
The grievances start with an internal process to the city. Yes. It goes to some level of supervision, and in a perfect world, they will look at it, and if there truly was a violation of the contract or some other reason for the grievance that was valid, they'd say, you know what, you're absolutely correct. We did violate the contract here, and you're due $300 upheld. Oftentimes, they deny it, even if it is a valid grievance, and it goes through steps. ultimately ending with an outside arbitrator being hired by both sides pay for this objective outside arbitrator. And we've seen some of that before, to come in and decide and tell one side or the other, no, you're wrong. And union, sorry, you're wrong here. You don't get anything. Or the city, boy, you were wrong here, and you owe this employee $1,000. So eventually it goes to an objective third party.
I know that, but I don't fully know it because I didn't have any grievances filed against me in the 2 years I was in office, mercifully, because I treated the unions respectfully, and we didn't have any of these issues.
Yeah. Well, speaking of CSEA members and grievances, Robin, I think we have some emails.
We do have some emails. So there was a FOIL request, which is a Freedom of Information request, put in with the city for emails that pertain to expletives that Mayor Kim was using in emails. And by the way, we should preface this by saying that this episode of the Saratoga Podcast, you are going to hear expletives, not necessarily from us, but primarily from Ron Kim, whether it's in the written word or verbally. So if you're sensitive to the F word, you should probably tune out now. That would be my recommendation.
In fact, you should never watch this podcast again.
Yeah. So one of the emails that was returned in this FOIL request was an exchange between the executive assistant from the mayor, Jen Dunn, who is reaching out to the Department of Public Works and someone who works in the Department of Works named Leah O'Connor, where Jen Dunn is asking on behalf of the mayor for the rental rates for the casino and for a pavilion in High Rock Park, because the mayor is interested in renting out either the casino or this pavilion in High Rock Park for some unspecified event, I think in the month of March. And Leah O'Connor in the Department of Public Works responds incredibly thoroughly and incredibly professionally, saying, here are the rental rates, see the attached PDF, and lays out what the rental rates are for these properties. And I'm going to throw up what the response is by Mayor Ron Kim. So it's a little bit hard to see there, right? Because it's a little bit small, but I'm just going to go ahead and read it to you guys. So Ron Kim responds to this totally professional email by saying, fuck blank. She gives me an effing book. He doesn't say effing, by the way. I'm just going to say effing for the sake of this podcast. F blank. She gives me an effing book. I am definitely going after her effing position. F blank. And then it's Ron Kim. So that is how he responds. And essentially what he's responding to is the fact that he gave her the list of the rental rates for the various properties that DPW rents out, as opposed, I guess, to just only giving her his executive assistant exactly the rental rates for the only two properties he's asking about. I imagine maybe, but either way you read it, this is a wildly inappropriate response to what can only be read as a completely professional and thorough reply by someone in the Department of Public Works. And to me, when I look at this email, it plays right into this hostile workplace environment that we're hearing about. I mean, guys, I don't know how you read this, but when I read this, it made my skin crawl. I mean, I was horrified by this email.
Robin, it's a little small right now. Who is on this email? Who is the mayor sending this to? Just to his executive assistant?
So the mayor's replying to his executive assistant, Jen Dunn, who has just forwarded him Leah O'Connor's response.
Yeah, and can you imagine being an executive assistant, right? You're there, and even if he feels this way, why would he put this on his executive assistant? I mean, it just shows a lack of leadership. I mean, a core leadership to make an environment where even his executive assistant now, boy, if she makes one slip up, is it going to draw this kind of response? I mean, it's instilling fear in her, I'm sure, as well as as the DPW worker. So again,
there's no mistake that has been made. You know what I mean? Like he got exactly the information he was asking for. There's no mistake here.
And even if there was, you come back with a request for a clarification. There's two things going on there that are both like appalling, but they actually stack and get worse. Is one, he becomes unhinged. Two, he becomes so unhinged that he communicates with, to Adam's point, the city employee in a harsh way. And 3, he's so unhinged that he doesn't even realize I'm writing an email here. And of course, this is going to come back publicly. And he's so unhinged that he doesn't grasp that, or is he so, does he have an arrogance that he doesn't care? Like, oh, they can't throw me out. I don't know. I don't know. I have a decent relationship with Ron Kim. I sort of like Ron Kim until I see things like this. Him and I were playing phone tag last week. He did, by the way, get back to me on my request to come on the show last week. Not until Friday afternoon. We talked earlier Friday, as did Commissioner Montanino. They both got back to me, and I made a mistake. Jason Tidu did get back to me prior to our show. I said that office did not get back to me, but that was my mistake. I just want to acknowledge that. But there's times when I like Ron Kim a lot, but I see this and I'm like, oh my God, this guy has a horrible, horrible problem. And we see it right here. It's not up for debate.
I mean, can you imagine going after this person's job, their livelihood, their career because of nothing? I'm going to go after her position? Like, what is wrong with you? This is the mayor of our city. And then to be in her position and find out that the mayor of your city has written this about you, like, I just found it to be absolutely appalling, like appalling. And he should be apologizing to her publicly, I personally think. I mean, this deserves a public apology in my eyes. I thought it was absolutely horrifying. And again, just plays right into this whole hostile work environment. If this is how you treat, like, you know, you want to know about someone's character, like what speaks to their character, it's how they treat the people around them. It's how they treat employees, you know, not when people are looking, but when people aren't looking. And so this, to me, speaks to Ron Kim's character. When people aren't looking, this is how he treats employees. This is how he treats people who he perceives as below him. This is how he treats them. This speaks to his character. I don't need to know any more about Mayor Ron Kim. I wish he wasn't our mayor. I think he's an embarrassment to our city.
I would just recommend. I know I've kind of harp on this, but there are with our city council, they don't get paid a lot. Maybe the city should think about a continuing education, because I think leadership and collaboration is what's missing. And I think Mayor Kim has the potential to be an effective mayor. But
what are you talking about? You think Mayor Ron Kim has the potential to be an effective mayor? He is a fully grown man. He has been a public safety commissioner for 2 terms. This is what he's devolved into. To think that he can be rehabilitated is like not on my dime. If he wants to rehabilitate himself into some kind of leader, he can do it off-site and he can run again.
I sort of agree. You're not going to change a 60-some-year, I think he's 60 or close to it, 60-some-year-old man's ways by education. But Adam, to your point, you talked about the money. Listen, I am all for tripling the salary, which would only get it to $45,000, not even, or about $45,000 of the commissioners. And I won't get into a charter change debate at this point, but paying $14,500 is worth, and this is the people that we have on there, some of them, I think we all have our feelings about. Some of them are good, some of them are wanting. But I think if we increase that to a reasonable amount to make it worthwhile, and Robin, obviously, you know this firsthand, you would get a deeper pool of candidates.
You guys, let's move on, because we have so much to talk about, because I could talk about the salary thing forever. It's ridiculous, but I'll save it for the next podcast.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't mention your point, but
yeah. So I know we really wanted to break down this viral video, especially with Dan, of Mayor Kim and Deputy T2. Do you want to take a minute to do that now?
Sure.
It's appropriate for the topic.
All right, hold on. Let me throw it up here and bring it back down. So I'm going to take this as slowly as I can. Dan, tell me when you want me to pause and when you want to talk, and I will pause and you can talk.
We prepped a little bit for this, but now that I'm seeing it, I'm kind of chuckling like, oh my God, are we really doing this? This is like the Kennedy assassination or something.
We're really doing this. So folks, what we wanted to do, just to preface this, Dan is essentially he's a law enforcement expert. Dan, remind everyone your background in law enforcement and how long you were a police officer.
I lived a life of law enforcement, right? I was a state trooper. I was a sergeant in the state police. I went to law school. I ran 2 different police unions. So I've got good perspective. I don't know if I'll go so far as saying I'm an expert at this. Plenty of people that have similar experience could comment, but I'm a retired cop and an attorney that'll comment. How's that?
Yes, that is great. So can we start off by saying that there's been a bit of conspiracy about how there could have been how a police officer happened to be there and why they would have had their body camera on. Can we speak to that for a moment? Because I know that I have some guesses. I surmised why that might be. My surmising was essentially that I know there were people in Jim Montanino's office when Mayor Ron Kim tried to get in initially that we haven't seen on tape. There was something that prefaced this that we're not seeing, which is that Mayor Ron Kim was trying to get into that office to speak to Commissioner Montanino in a very aggressive way. And so there's a chance that the people who were having a meeting inside Commissioner Montanino's office could have alerted the police station downstairs to send someone up. That could have happened. Also, this police officer could have heard yelling and the slamming of doors, and just that alone could have summoned him or her to where this was happening. Thirdly, if I were this police officer and I heard elected officials shouting, or really anyone shouting for that matter, body camera would have gone on because there's a chance I would have needed to intervene. So to me, those are three very valid reasons for this police officer being there at that moment. Dan, do you have thoughts when it comes to why they were there?
And I'll just comment on the body cam first. I don't know their policy, but I'm sure it says when you see a situation where you are taking police action, expect to take police action, folks, that was that close to a fist fight, right? An assault. Yeah. So it was before I get to why he was there, it was totally appropriate to turn the camera on. In fact, not doing so may have violated city policy and brought him up on discipline charges. And maybe it was on already anyway. I don't know that. Maybe we just saw a snippet. And I don't know. I can't, but it's common to see police officers walking around any city hall, any municipality with a police department. Sometimes the courts are attached and so forth. It's not uncommon to see a police officer walking through a city hall, town hall, village hall. So
and I want to say we've established the fact that the camera was on because there are some conspiracy theories going on. We'll talk about later about releasing the video, but right now we've established that we believe that it is appropriate for this body camera to go on. So let's roll that sweet footage.
Okay, here we go.
Fuck you. I'll arrest you if you do that shit to me again. Don't you do that. Arrest me? You come in here and threaten me.
Right there. Can you stop? Look at that. That looks like it's about to become a physical. What reasonable person would not think that? And thank God it didn't, right? But in fact, I'm surprised he wasn't moving a little closer. But he might have been in total shock. You don't expect that coming out from the mayor and a commissioner's office. Although these days, I guess you would. But sorry, keep going.
No, also, so I think this is an important place to pause because what Deputy Tito, I think, is saying is that Deputy Tito is saying, if you do that again, I'll have you arrested, referring to Mayor Kim trying to force his way into the office while they were having a meeting with someone else to get to Commissioner Montanino. And Jason Tito is saying, you can't come in. And Mayor Kim was trying to get in. And that's why Jason Tito is saying, if you do that again, I'll have you arrested.
Okay, yeah, I recall that now.
Yeah. All right, play on.
Out of your mind. Get back to your office.
I didn't threaten you. I said, you know that you're threatening my family and you don't do shit.
Get back to your office. Don't you threaten me.
You. Who are you?
I want to pause right there for a second. The reason I want to pause right there for a second is that the person we're looking at who is walking by with the red folder in her hand is the Deputy Mayor, Angela Rella. Angela Rella, to walk by this situation as if nothing is happening, as if this is a totally ordinary day at the office, is horrifying to me. Horrifying. For her to see her boss acting that way and just be like la-di-da, she kind of smirks, to be honest with you, in the video. I was shocked by. Did anyone else find that a little bit shocking that these people are just walking by like, oh, nothing's happening? Like, this is just ordinary Ron Kim behavior.
Yeah. I think that's the issue. Is I'd speak more of the fact of just the people underneath him are in a keep your head down mentality because they don't want to be the target of this behavior.
Yeah, but by doing that,
I don't know so much about City Hall insiders as you do, Robin. I feel sorry for these three people, these women walking by, to have to walk into that and the awkwardness. And like you said, there's a, you got the two high officials there. I'm not going to criticize any of them.
I'm going to happily criticize them. Angela
Okay.
Rowell, I'm so sorry for her at all. She's making $90,000 a year to do her job as deputy. And you know what? If she wants to co-sign that behavior, that's on her. But I don't know. I
don't think that's fair, Robin. I respectfully don't think that's fair to her. I don't know her. I think I met her once. What a horrible situation for anybody to be walking down that works in that building to be walking down the hall. I feel bad for all of them.
I can't imagine any deputy that I know in that capacity not saying, hey, what's going on here? Can we calm this down? And trying to take charge of their commissioner a bit. That's what the deputy's role is. I mean,
I agree. I agree. She should have done that. But going back to Dan's point, I mean, this is not in the job description of UC what to do with this.
And in fairness to her, there was a police officer right there.
True.
All right, let's go.
Also, we have at this point, he also has said to Deputy Commissioner Jason T2, they've made threats to my family. And we know at this point that claim has been investigated and proven to be untrue by the police department. They've released a statement saying that the email threat that Ron Kim is referring to has been investigated and proven to not have risen to the level of an actionable threat. The quote that was in question was a quote that said something to the effect of, "You should resign. You would be better off." And that
in the end.
Yes. And that was the quote that he was talking about. It was referred to the police department. A spokesperson for the police department, Sergeant Paul Veach, put out a statement yesterday and said that, again, the police department investigated and found that there was no threat.
Which is real quick. I think that's important because I have sympathy where if I thought somebody was threatening my family and nothing was being done, I might behave this way too. But it does kind of go to the point of, okay, was somebody really threatening his family, not, and what was actually being done or not done about it. But let's roll on.
Wait, I got to make one point. It's ironic that he's going to the public safety department, and just a week earlier, Jim Montanino was told by somebody, "I'm going to take you out of this world."
I know.
So you should be afraid of me.
I'm going to miss the irony there, or I'm sorry.
A Skidmore student said, "You should be afraid of me. I'm going to take you out of this world," and that nothing really happened there. But anyway,
said that in public comment at the city council meeting.
Inappropriately so, nothing happened because that was a somewhat vague. It was bothersome. It was ominous, perhaps, but it wasn't criminal.
But also, Mayor Ron Kim was the public safety commissioner, and so he should know more than anyone that going to the commissioner or deputy commissioner has nothing to do with anything. You go down to the police department. That's where they investigate threats. And if he felt not enough was being done, he would go to the chief of police. He would go back down to the investigator who is doing the investigating. That's who he would speak to. You don't go to the commissioner. That they have nothing to do with anything. It just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. And Ron Kim, as the former public safety commissioner, should know that. Anyway, all right, let's continue to roll for a sec.
You fucking lazy piece of shit.
What's going on out there?
Go fuck yourself.
I wince.
That's what.
Sorry, Dan, go ahead.
Oh, I just, oh God, all of that, right? All that, but especially that final, when in front of other people and so forth, that he has a serious flaw, and this is not the attack Ron Kim hour. I sort of like him. We have great conversations, but holy cow!
Yeah, agree.
The mayor was coming to City Hall.
You've done a lot worse in the public on tape.
I don't know what he's talking about when he says you've done a lot worse in the public on tape. Do you guys?
No,
No.
Unless they're saying his actions at sitting at the city council table. I have no idea. It'd be quite the stretch to say such a thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I've never heard Commissioner Montanino use the F-bomb ever, personally.
Oh, sorry. Keep going.
Threatening my family, and you guys.
Okay, wait. He's about to say who is, and I think I might have the old video, so we're about to hear the person's name.
It was out there.
Fucking Sam Brewer.
We sent you down to the police department. You didn't go.
Pausing that, we sent you down to the police department, and you didn't go.
that was said by Deputy T2.
That was said by Deputy T2.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, I interpret that, and Dan, I don't know if you interpret this the same way. I interpret that to mean if he said to them, I was emailed a threat, I'm guessing, said to him, you need to go down to the police department and file a report.
Yeah, yes, because Joe Sixpack has to go down to the police department and file a report in that situation.
Everybody does.
In all fairness, if we had a functioning city hall and a functioning council, the mayor could go down the hall and say, "Hey, this is horrible. Can you give me some help here? Hey, Mr. Mayor, sure. Let me walk down with you and we'll talk to the sergeant together and I'll give my input." Some sort of cooperation, some empathy, some sympathy. But
so they could have taken him by the arm and literally, but I just want to point out, they're standing directly, they're probably 20 feet away from the entrance of the police department. They literally just have to turn, like Ron Kim has to look left, walk down the staircase that's directly to the left of him, and he's at the entrance to the police department. He was the former public safety commissioner for 4 years. He knows how to walk down the stairs and file a complaint. I mean, he knows how to do it. So, I mean, yeah, would it be nice, I guess, if someone took him by the arm and like walked him downstairs and like helped him do it? I suppose that would be nice, but is it necessary? I mean, it seems to me that if Deputy T2 said you need to go downstairs and file a complaint, I'm not sure why the mayor couldn't have done that on his own. You know?
All right.
I get that. Yeah.
That's all I get? Fuck you, Davis. Are you coming in for this?
And we're done.
I've seen more body cam footage this week than I've seen in a lifetime.
I know. I know.
No.
I think we have a couple comments here. Let's see.
Oh, real quick.
A third woman does come. Yes, I saw that. Yes.
I missed that. Thank you for commenting.
Why isn't the police officer getting closer when it seems they're almost ready to physically go after each other? He seems pretty close to me in terms of needing to intervene. What do you think, Dan?
Yeah, Dan. Yeah.
You know, police officers have advanced training and some street smart and so forth, but they're also human. And he was like, WTF, like what's going on? And he was frozen for a minute. He was human. He was human. Should he move closer? Maybe, but I'm shocked watching it a week later. So imagine.
Hey guys, real quick, let's talk about this video being released, because that's another. You know, the establishment of whether it should be on. I think we all in agreement it was appropriate to have body cam on. The next question comes: should that have been released? I'm curious if you guys what your thoughts are.
I think that it is a really tough one. I think it should have been released. Ultimately, it should have been released. But there's like 1,000 mixed motivations happening here. Everyone has different objectives. Everyone has different people they want to like smear. But at the end of the day, I think all these politicians are in a really tough spot because every single one of them has come out saying transparency with a capital T and has proven their commitment to transparency by releasing body camera footage. And so it kind of came back to bite them in the ass.
I agree, and we Mayor Kim has used transparency to bring up these attorney bills to try to imply you, Robin, we're overspending on the attorney bills when you have no control over it. You know, it's the city that's being protected by your attorney and you, but you're you know, it's you and the city. So that was appropriate. And he said, through transparency, I'm going to show these bills. And let's face it, Commissioner Montanino, by releasing these, there's some politics there, there's some ugliness there, but it was foilable anyway, right? If somebody wanted to foil it, and people were, and at some point with FOIL, rather than answering 100 FOIL requests, agencies do this all the time. Well, we're just going to make this available for you. Now, this wasn't the case there. I don't think they had 100 FOIL requests. They might have had 3, might have had 5 or 8. I don't know. So there was some politics there. There's no two ways about it. But it wasn't so inappropriate. They didn't release something confidential. There's no criminal case going on or anything like that. So it was very foilable. So some politics, but not an egregious violation of anything that I can see.
I should also add that there are cameras in City Hall outside of police body cameras. So like when you walk into City Hall, you're on tape regardless. Just FYI for the public.
And anybody can foil that. People think FOIL is only about documents. It's any record, right? It's any record that they have, including, you know, audio tape, videotape, computer files, so forth.
Yeah. So I don't know. What do you think, Adam?
Yeah, I agree. I'm a big advocate of transparency. I think this is in the public's interest to, this video was taken legally. It was taken in City Hall on during city business. And I good, bad, or indifferent, if there's video that is beneficial for the public to see, I absolutely think it should be released, regardless of, again, there are political motivations here, but it does show a side of the mayor that again fills into everything we've been talking about of this work environment. And although again, you guys are going to crucify me. I don't blame him if he honestly thought his family was in danger of losing his cool. But again, it goes into a pattern. It's not just this where that email, there's nothing to justify that email. Right. His reaction here, if he thought his life was in danger and nobody was doing anything about it, as a father, I might lose my shit too.
How would a reasonable person read that one quote of an email and believe that that was a threat to their family? I don't think any reasonable person could read that and infer that. And as someone who had threats on her family that were serious and dramatic and required dramatic action, I find it so offensive that he would invoke threats to his family as an excuse for his piss poor behavior.
Okay, so, to be clear, these were why you were Commissioner of Public Safety, right? So as Commissioner of Public Safety, you received death threats.
First of all, Dalton children, if you're listening to this for some fakakta reason, turn off the program. Yeah, go back to school, turn off the program, or otherwise you'll kiss your Wi-Fi goodbye. Yes, well, I was Commissioner of Public Safety. I received death threats that were extremely serious. I received a violent rape death threat that was disgusting, that was investigated. They identified the person fairly quickly. I, at one point, was called into the police department on a Friday and had to take my elementary school age children out of school and had to leave my home and had to go to an undisclosed location where I had undercover police officers outside the hotel we were staying at, and had to stay there for overnight because it wasn't safe for me to stay in my home because of the threats that were coming in to my family and on my life. And that was happening when I was public safety commissioner. And so I know what it's like to have some really serious threats come in when you're in office. And it was a really horrific and emotional experience. And so I guess it just really gets to me when Ron Kim uses this, there was threats to my family to excuse or justify his behavior. And then I see what he considers a threat. And I compare it to what I went through on that city council and what my family went through. And there were break-ins, there were phone calls that my kids answered where they were told their mom was going to be killed. It was really freaking awful, you guys. It was really freaking awful. And It wasn't stuff that I ever shared with the city council. It wasn't things that I ever shared with the public because I didn't need that kind of sympathy. I didn't need that kind of attention. And also there were things that were privately handled by the police department. I went directly to them and that's how they were handled. And that was that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Listen, I won't blame Mayor Kim for feeling threatened. It was vague, but it was still a threat. And when you're in that isolation of a high position and you're alone at the top, I could see why that would concern him for him and his family. His reaction is not justified, but having some internal concern, I agree with. But he missed the point that Commissioner Montanino had a very public threat right in front of him. He did nothing to help him. And then he turns around a week later and says, "Is that all I get? Well, that's all. You didn't do anything for me." And that doesn't make it right. Both of them should say, "Oh my God, politics aside, this is wrong, even though it's vague and it's not actionable in a criminal action. Oh my God. Okay, let's put the politics aside for 5 minutes. I'm terribly sorry for you, Mayor Kim, and I'm terribly sorry for you, Commissioner Montanino, that someone is making threats that could be considered against your life." That's
Hey guys, we have another video. We have.
I know we got to move on. We have so much to discuss.
We're 40 minutes in here, and we still.
Word! It's another body cam.
And the whole thing is too. We plug this was going on in schools, but let's get to that next video of I believe it was at the city council meeting.
Okay. Sorry, let me pause it. Sorry.
Yeah, yes. I was going to say to preface this was at a city council meeting where it was alleged that Commissioner Montanino had sheriffs and police in riot gear in the hallway ready to arrest protesters. So this was released. Yeah, the mayor said that, and I think Commissioner Moran may have said that as well, or back that up. But I think they said this was released to show the inaccuracy of those statements of that the police were not in riot gear and there were not sheriffs in City Hall. The sheriffs were actually in the city, but to patrol the rest of the city, because our police department was in city. We talked about this before. Was there to keep the peace at our city council meeting, and there was nobody else to patrol the city. So.
Exactly. And before you play it, that is the appropriate way to handle that. Imagine if there was a robbery at a gas station and every police officer was inside City Hall, minutes away from their car. They did the right thing. There was still police coverage in the city.
Yeah.
All right.
Here we go. And just tell me when you guys want to pause.
Right on, misogynist. I'm not going anywhere. Neither are you guys.
Neither are us guys.
Real quick, I think it's pointed out that that's Commissioner of Accounts Dylan Moran. Commissioner Moran, he's been on the show before, so he's trying to keep the police out of making arrests and out of City Hall or out of the music room where the protest is happening.
He's trying to light our city on fire. He's putting you guys in a line of fucking fires. Bullshit.
Don't talk to me.
So he's saying, that's Commissioner Moran saying he's putting you guys in the line of effing fire. It's bullshit.
Yeah.
I went red, by the way. They're having an argument.
You guys in
Robin, can you pause it for a moment?
Bullshit. Yeah, it matters to me. Shoot some more. It's real. We're not going to have people get hurt. It's not.
So he's saying I'm not going to let people get hurt. In the background, you're hearing protesters inside the music hall where the city council meeting was being run, chanting, "Drop the charges, drop the charges." They are protesting Jim Montanino's summonses that he brought against Chandler Hickenbottom, Els Figuerero, and Bridget, whose last name I don't know. But that's the protest noise that you're hearing in the background.
Yeah, one thing I think is important to point out is that the police officer who is trying to de-escalate the situation is Officer Barrett, who is the school SRO. And I think this is a perfect example of what these SROs are able to do and what they would bring to our school district and do is this de-escalation of very, very tense moments. So hats off to Officer Barrett for not escalating the situation, but to de-escalating with Commissioner Moran. So just wanted to point that out.
Good point. It's harder to see in this video. The close-up shows it where he softly touches Commissioner Moran's arm in a very almost a soothing way to let him know he's not being aggressive.
And he says, "Take some breaths with me."
Okay. Yes. Right.
Yeah.
We want him
that's
in
a
the
great
school with our
point.
kids.
Adam and Robin, great points.
Yeah.
Thanks, Officer Dan.
I don't care what that psychopath wants.
That was Commissioner Moran again, referring to Commissioner Montanino as a psychopath, which he did do also on our show, I will say.
What is it? It's going to cost us millions of dollars. The last thing I want to see is someone get hurt.
So that's Commissioner Moran saying this is going to cost the city millions of dollars. And then I believe he says again, a reference to people getting hurt, or this is the last thing I want to see. So that's about it that we see from that video. So it's some intense moments. I don't know, Dan. I don't know if you have any reaction to that.
Well, I'm going to give you less from a police officer reaction, more of my time in politics down in Albany. It's such a shit show. It's disgusting, as friends have told me, and people that don't even normally get into politics. More people are watching this podcast and getting involved because it's so ugly. And I'm not advocating for the return of Andrew Cuomo, okay? But if he was governor right now, I have a feeling he would come up here or send somebody up here, take Commissioner Montanino, Mayor Kim, and Commissioner Moran and smash their heads together. We wouldn't even find out about this meeting. I'm serious. and he threatened them, and things will be better. That was his way of governing. He was bad in many ways, but he was effective, right? He was a dictator, and he was an effective dictator. I'm not espousing that. I'm not advocating for that. I'm just saying what would be if he was still governor. I have little doubt, especially because they're all Democrats. It's an embarrassment. It's an embarrassment to this state. The whole Capital District News Corps is paying attention to Saratoga now because they know it's juicy stuff. And we don't want juicy stuff. We want horse racing, Travers, street festivals, and a few other things, not this ugliness.
Yeah, that's a great point, Dan. Is like, where does the leadership come in to solve what's going on? Because it doesn't seem like it's going to work its way out without somebody coming in. But hopefully the state, that would be great if the state came in and worked this out.
Governor Hochul could. Yeah. She's powerful enough, if she knows how to use it, to do that. Maybe she doesn't care. Maybe she got bigger fish to fry. But still, this is an embarrassment.
I completely agree. It is a total shit show and a complete embarrassment. And I do wish there was someone who from higher above could come in and kind of school these folks and get things back to the way they should be run. I think we've become, I mean, literally my mother from New York City called me and was like, what is going on up there in Saratoga Springs? I mean, we have become a complete embarrassment for the region. People are looking at us and being like, we look like incompetent fools. And I did a little Facebook Live when I was walking around the other day because it was pissing me off so much because our city is being judged by the actions of these tiny, by a tiny few, by the actions of what's going on, at these 2 council meetings a month. And it has no reflection on what a great city we have and what the vast majority of Saratogians do and how we live every day, and it's just such a poor reflection on the city, and it shouldn't stand, it just shouldn't stand. So I hope that we can get back to a much more functional level of city government, and we can kind of build back our much maligned reputation at this point.
That was a great closing, Robin. I'm sorry, I got to interject something because it just came to my mind. These people need a tough dad or a tough mom. And there's 4 people in this state. And I'm asking one or all of them to help us, your constituents here in Saratoga Springs. So was it Congressman Tonko, Senator Gillibrand, Senator Schumer, or Governor Hochul? 1, 2, 3, or 4 of them. We're asking you to come to Saratoga, knock some heads together behind closed doors, and solve these problems because they're ripping everybody apart.
Yes, Mom, Dad, we need you. Get down here. We need you.
Yes, we need that. We do.
Well, guys, let's shift gears into the school board issues that I know we wanted to talk about. So let me just pull this up real quick. We had, Adam, do you want to pull this up real quick I'm trying to, guys, I produce while I talk, and so, sometimes that gets a little tricky for me. Hold on 1 second. Let me create this.
That allows Adam and I to get some words in.
Yeah,
I know.
I'll talk a little bit. This is something I think anybody who's been following anything I'm doing on Facebook sees I'm very passionate about. Is that a piece the Schenectady Gazette did on one of our school board members. We're going to get into school board next week, so I won't get into too much of the school board member. But
candidate,
what it was,
right? School board candidate.
But what it was essentially opinion piece because it's a columnist. And I say this because this is a technicality where now it doesn't have to really adhere to any journalistic standards, which it didn't. It tied together not crazy conspiracy theories, but conspiracy theories. It makes accusations without giving any, it says this candidate supported by big money Republican donors who want to take over school boards. That's it. There's nothing more to that than that statement. And it just, and also, and this is funny because I feel like I'm the one who's banging this drum, but it also uses unflattering photos of a woman, which for me just is a way to discredit or humiliate a woman by using unflattering photos is horrible. It just really is misogyny. And what happens now, and this is I see this. Everybody, I've talked to a lot of candidates over my years. Everybody who's either about to announce a run or has decided to run in this city, the first thing they say, and this is on both sides of the aisle, is I know they're going to come for me. That's what they say. And we lose a lot of people who don't want to be in office because of garbage like this, piece of Schenectady Gazette did. because people are legitimately afraid that there's going to be a hit piece done on them. It's going to tarnish their their reputation. It's going to be shared online and social media. They're going to be ever forever branded of something that they're not. So this 2-bit Tucker Carlson hack of a I don't know what columnist can get some clicks. It's exactly what Tucker Carlson does. It is nothing based in fact, and people eat it up. And people, it's like throwing meat to the wolves. They eat it up, and they just run with these narratives that are not supported in fact. And it really has me bothered. So
I gotta say, I will say that this guy, Andrew Wade, who wrote this column, like I read it, I was so freaking confused because it honestly read like gibberish. Like he was all over the place, and he was it kind of reminded me of, Carrie in Homeland. I don't know if you guys ever saw that show. She would like go off her meds, and she would have like a wall, and she'd have like all this stuff up on the wall, and there'd be like string connecting like one idea to the other idea, because it was like this whole paranoid schizophrenic like map of stuff. Like to me, that's how his column read. Like he was just trying to connect like one crazy thing to another crazy thing to another crazy thing, and he was trying to like weave it all together and try to have it make sense. But it just did not make sense to me at all. It was kind of like a real stretch, and so I thought it was like a really lame piece of journalism. And I was like, Andrew Wade, like kind of pathetic. Like nice try, like please. But also the thing about pictures of women in the media, like I have suffered from this. Like, yeah, the media loves to put an unflattering photo of a woman out. Like they just love it. It's just, it's totally lame, but I, been there, done that. And yeah, pathetic effort, Andrew Wade. Not surprised, but
it's interesting. I think women politicians, I talked to another politician who, when I showed her a picture, this was her, she was in office a long time, said, "Oh, you think that's bad? Wait till you see the pictures they did of me." Why should this be acceptable for anybody? And I'll say this is not acceptable for Republicans to do either. This is, this is wrong. It's not what, if you want to support a candidate.
Well, Republicans do it all the time.
Well, I don't doubt that. I don't doubt they do it all the time. But
it's
right
just
now in this city, yeah, exactly. And it's for me, it's just so fun. And I've said this, I don't know how I'm the guy leading this, this woman's, equality charge right now, but I really truly feel passionate about that this shows the intent of the article. And another, while I'm on my rant, I'll be real quick with this one. Another issue I have with our local media, when that video came out of Ron Kim, before the video came out, another reporter I have big issues with, Wendy from the Times-Union. The Times-Union ran us an apology story for the mayor before the video was even out. They had out with the mayor's apology before there was a story. How journalist integrity? I mean, we're okay with just slandering people.
It was a press release. It was a press release.
Yes, it was a press release.
Press release for Ron Kim masquerading as a news article. I was like, this is garbage.
Yeah, who runs apology stories before the story's written and calls that news and says they have any shred of integrity? This is all propaganda, and I rail against this on the national level in Fox News, and I rail against this on the local level in the local media we have here. When they run these pieces that clearly, everybody has a bias. I get that, but a reporter's job is to acknowledge that bias and work to not let it affect their writing, not to embrace it and run with it and try to forward their ideologies.
Adam, well stated. I got to interject something of my own because I'd be remiss if I didn't say this. To your point, Adam, the Moving Saratoga, I don't know, platform, whatever it is, it's got a Twitter account. They did some horrible things with caricatures, with people we know with heads on bodies, vulgar, terrible. I used to occasionally link him off Saratoga Report. I will never do that again. I'm done with the Moving Saratoga Forward platform. So it does go both ways. That was even worse what was done on there to people that we know. That does not move the conservative movement forward. In fact, it undermines it. I needed to say that.
I think we need to point out that the ultimate, Donald Trump gave cover to every single Republican who wanted to criticize a woman over her looks and continues to do that. I mean, he's the trailblazer in criticizing women over their looks. I mean, the E. Jean Carroll case, I believe he did, he said he wouldn't rape this woman because he wasn't attracted to her, and then added on to that he wasn't attracted to her lawyer either. He wasn't really her type. He's the trailblazer for this kind of bullshit. But anyway, let's move on.
I know. Real quick, I know nationally we have MAGA Republicans who just, you feed them a conspiracy theory, they run with it. Locally, we have WAGA Democrats. That's what I'm labeling it. WAGA Democrats are the Democrats where you just throw out this conspiracy theory. They repeat it, offer no facts or information to support it, and it becomes truth. And it's equally as bad as the MAGA Republicans.
Adam, is that what the W is for now? And Adam W. Israel, is that for women? Adam W. Israel? I've never noticed that.
Yes. There is a really, really funny Chappelle skit about how he's going to protect women's rights. I'm not going to do it now because it's actually horrible and incredibly misogynistic, but it's worth a Google.
Let's move on because we teased the story.
Oh yeah, the whole thing we teased. Yeah,
I know. Okay, listen. So there was an issue that was brought to our attention about a workshop they did in the 7th grade gym class. That, to be totally honest with you, when it was brought to my attention, I was like, this can't be true. This sounds like right-wing conspiracy nut job stuff.
We all had that. Everybody had that same theory. I agree with you, Robin, but go on. It's like you're like, this is conspiracy theories right now.
Yeah, I was like, this sounds like the litter box thing. I was like, this can't be freaking true. And basically the premise of it was that in the kids' gym class, in the 7th grade gym class, they had the students at first, they were all sitting down, and at first it was run by a group of high school kids from a club that they're in, and it's part of a national program. And essentially what they did was they had the kids sit down and stand up if they were part of one of these groups. And they asked questions like, are you adopted? And you would stand up if you were part of that group. Have you experienced the loss of a family member? What are your pronouns? And then they would list pronouns, and you would stand up if you identified as one of those pronouns. Are you rich? Are you poor? Do you identify as LGBTQ? What's your heritage and where are you from? What's your religion? And they would list all the religions, et cetera, et cetera. And so I heard this and I was like, there's no one. And so the point of this was to build inclusivity. Okay. So you're hearing about this and I'm like, this sounds kind of like crazy. Like to me, I'm like, this is how we build inclusivity. Like, this doesn't make any sense to me. Like, did this really happen? Like, I can't imagine they're asking these questions and they're having kids stand up to identify as like being part of these groups. Like, what does being adopted have to do with anything? Like being rich or poor? Like, why are you pointing this out? Like, it seemed really crazy to me. I happen to have a 7th grader at Maple Avenue Middle School. So when he got home, I said to my 7th grader, I said, hey, did you have a gym class where they asked you like some questions? And he was like, you know how I don't know if you guys know how 7th grade boys are, but he was like, yeah.
I do.
I was like,
a little bit.
I was like, so what questions did they ask? And he was like, they asked like what religion I was. They asked, and he, based on his memory, no prompting by Robin Dalton, went through all the questions that I just repeated to you guys. The only one he didn't get was, are we rich? Are you rich? Or are you poor? Because he said they ran out of time in gym class and they didn't get to it. I asked him if he thought any of them were weird. He said no. The only one he thought was kind of weird or uncomfortable was, have you lost a close family member? Because there was a child in his gym class who had just lost a close family member. And he said they all felt kind of sad for him that he had to raise his hand because they changed this. They evolved it a little bit as they were doing this program during gym class that week, such that they stopped having kids stand up off the ground because it was kind of awkward for the kids. And so they had them start raising their hands instead. And so I was confused about this. I had some questions about this. I didn't love that it had happened and I didn't know about it. I didn't have like a complete freak out about it, but I just had some questions. So I called Amy Totino, who's the principal for the 7th grade. And she, to her credit, called me right back. We played a little bit of phone tag. I got on the phone with her. She walked me through the whole thing, and I have a take on it that I want to give you guys. But before I do that, I want to throw it to both of you and kind of get your opinion on this kind of a workshop and what your thoughts are on it before I get to kind of my take on it.
Adam, you know more about this. Why don't you start?
Yeah, so I have children in our school district. So my take on this is what is going on? The first issue, people like to, I know there's a big thing to rally against parental rights and transparency, and that's the kind of, those are right-wing conspiracy theories. But this just proves why we need transparency, and parents have to have a right to know what's going on with their kids. There's no information that the parents get about this. They can't. The school district doesn't get to them. And I want to say, can you imagine? Let's say you are a gay child, or you were adopted, and you're sitting next to your friend on one side and you're a bully on the other, and your friend might know that you're adopted, and then they ask the question, and your friend's looking at you like, "Are you going to stand up?" This is the definition of outing people. This is
I just have to say, you weren't forced to raise your hand. You weren't.
That was what I was going to ask.
No, you're not. But if you're a 7th grader and your friend's right next to you, and they know you're either gay or adopted, or a bully might be saying that about you, and there might be a rumor in school about you, and now everybody's looking at you because now they're going to say, "Are you going to stand up or not?" And to put a child, if they want to do that behind closed doors, I don't even get it at all. But fine, do it behind closed doors. Get parental consent to ask your children these questions. Don't out somebody who's adopted, who just lost a parent, who may be, who may have, it may be identify as something other than heterosexual. This should be something that they can, and I know what you're saying, Rob, that they're not forced to stand up, but there could be a lot of outside pressures of people staring at them, and that's too much for a 7th grade brain to comprehend, and it's just plain wrong, and it's why these school district votes are so bad. They did this again before with the privilege quiz, where where kids were forced to say, if you were Jewish, you were super privileged being Jewish, and you should check your privileges. And I can tell you, being Jewish, you do face anti-Semitism. It is a challenge. And to say that the Jews, that we are somehow anointed as the most privileged, we've had a tough walk through history.
Adam, you don't control the media?
I try to.
I'm joking. That's a terrible joke, by the way. Terrible joke.
Yeah. No, I get it. Exactly. Right. This is yeah. Or space balloons. I don't know but the point being is, I find this, it is why we need transparency. It's what when people talk about parental rights and transparency, they're saying, let's have a conversation about this program because it seems highly inappropriate. And without transparency, I can come up here and talk about how it might be appropriate. I don't know, because we don't talk about it. They just do it and they force it down our kids' throat.
So
I'll be brief. Wait, sorry, Robin. If you're going to say what, I'll be very brief. I'm not as familiar with it as you. I don't have kids in that middle school, and if they absolutely said it clearly, like, if this applies to you and you just don't want to be identified as that, you are not. If they made it crystal clear, even with, to your point, Adam, 7th graders, it's still a little bit pressure. I would, at this point, I'll be open-minded, and I want to hear what Robin has to say about it, because she seems to be able to enlighten us.
So I actually asked for this document so I could have it on the podcast to read to you guys, but Amy, Principal Totino, wasn't sure if she could give it out to me at this point because it was still being tweaked. But essentially, the guidelines of how. Listen, Adam, hold on. It was the guidelines of how this was run and the rules of how they had these conversations and the kind of parameters that were put in place to protect the kids in terms of how this was happening. And it was basically to say that we all identify as different groups and we all identify in different ways. And we have to acknowledge and respect those differences and care for each other. And as we acknowledge those differences and not make them a point of hostility or a point of ridicule, but make them a point of respect and a point of inclusion. And the way that they kind of contextualized this workshop gave me a higher degree of comfort with it. And there were always grownups in the room. There were always adults in the room supervising this. And so I guess my point is, although I, Robin Dalton, am not full, it made me uncomfortable. There's no doubt it made me uncomfortable, right? But here's the thing. Bullying is worse than it's ever been. Kids' ability to talk to each other and to relate to each other is worse than it's ever been in our schools. It's really devolved to a level that we should all be extremely concerned about. And we have to respond to that in new and different ways because what we've been doing hasn't worked. And so if this is a national program that, by the way, like we've Googled, Adam, I know you Googled, is above reproach. Like there has been no controversy at all around this national program. Now, there may be some controversy in terms of how we implement it into our own school district, perhaps. But if this is a way to try to eliminate bullying, to try to address some of these issues of sensitivities and to try to build inclusion, yeah, maybe it makes me a little uncomfortable, but maybe we need to try something that's different because what we've been doing in the past hasn't been effective.
Well, I would say it goes back to transparency. Fine.
With the transparency. So Principal Totino specifically said to me that she really regretted the way this was rolled out because there was a whole bunch of stuff that happened the week prior that prevented her from alerting the parents the way she wanted to alert the parents. And I would encourage anyone who has issues with how this happened, like I did, to contact her, to contact the middle school to get their questions answered, because she right away got back to me and answered all of my questions in a way that I was satisfied with. So although I think, you know, it should have happened in the opposite way, like questions should have been answered first, and then the exercise should have happened second. It sucks that it didn't happen in that order. I'm at least satisfied as a parent that I got my questions answered at some point. And so, yeah, I'm not thrilled with it. I'm not totally comfortable with it. But I also think that, like, me as a parent, like, I have to evolve and get kind of more comfortable with the fact that I need to be a little uncomfortable with how some of these exercises are going to go, because we have to try something different because our schools and our kids are really suffering. So that's my hot take. That's it.
Yeah. That sounds like a lot of kumbaya, Robin. But I think when if you look at the basic facts of it, if you're adopted, right? And you say that you're adopted, you don't identify as like, you know, this is not who you are as an identity as an adopted child, right? This is part of your life that you have to deal with, you know, and when I say you have to deal with, I mean, it's something that is part of who you are, but you don't identify as adopted. So then the school now is, and again, I know people didn't have to stand up, but if your three friends know you're adopted and they're staring at you when they ask this question, you're going to feel the pressure to stand up, and you don't want everybody to know this.
Adam,
you want
listen,
this.
You're going to be happy because commenters agree. Let me just throw up some comments. You're going to be excited. Gail LaSalle says, as a parent and a teacher, having parent input would be so important. Adam is making a good point. There may be kids who are too sensitive to issues to be asked to be open and honest at this age. Linda says, depends on what the objectives of the workshops were. Mike AB says,
and quickly, that's why they should have this on the site. You asked for those documents, they didn't give them to you. You know, we talk about FOIL and dissemination and transparency. These should be available. Sorry.
They did send out one email that kind of generally outlined the objectives, but it was quite general.
Let me ask you this. I mean, like,
is rich or poor an identity? I mean, I obviously, no, I'm just kidding. No, I'm not, I don't know the answer to that, Mike AB. That's a good question. Gail says, the questions were too personal. It gives those who are bullies ammunition. So you're getting a lot of agreement.
It's important to point out, like,
comment from Warren Leary that I also wanted to put up. This is about the article. Those fears aren't misplaced.
This is good because I want to address this. So
those fears aren't misplaced. And I know Sharon. I also know she has done those things, both an excellent syndication for Saratoga Springs, and she interviewed with Waite last year and again last year. That's clear in the article. There's clear information supporting these claims if you want to look at them. Sharon also foiled information about the district's insurance and the oath of office to remove elected trustees from office. There was a real effort from New York Informed and also is trackable.
Let me say this. This is exactly what they're doing to her. They offer no proof. Fine, if there are these proof and it's out there, don't just say it's out there. Don't make these accusations and conspiracy theories. And it's what they're doing to her. And nobody can offer any proof to any of the things that were said in this article. And so they just throw up like, no, it's out there. And it's this propagandist of you dehumanize somebody by using unflattering images of them. You say it enough times, it becomes truth. And you come up with these wild conspiracy theories, and you just have your rabid base of, the Saratoga WAGA Democrats run with it. Like it's like, like it's the gospel. When again, every comment about this, nobody actually presents any finite proof.
And
Yeah,
I
guess
have to
that's
come to Sharon Dominguez's aid as well. Let me disclose she did buy an ad on my website, but for $300, I'm not gonna, I like her. She's a neighbor. I think she'd be a great school board member. She's a reasonable person that really cares. And she's pro SRO. We're gonna point that out next week. And I'm only saying that right now because this person wrote a paragraph that we put there. We allowed that person to comment. So I felt the need to come to her aid because she was being,
I'm just going to say, I'm throwing up this comment again. The only thing I can say is that to be honest with you, we're getting so in the weeds here that I don't really know how to appropriately respond to that comment, except, I don't really know because I just don't know.
That's how I'll respond.
It's clearly negative.
Adam, you've responded sufficiently. Seriously, Adam, you've responded.
Real quick, this is what I'll say. People in the city should focus on the candidates they support and why they support them. And stop interjecting in these negative conspiracy theory ways to candidates who are just, they're doing their civic duty. They're not getting paid for any of this. They're stepping up and they're trying to help their community out. Tell us why you like your opponents. Don't play in the mud.
Okay. You guys, should we move on to cheers and jeers? We're well over an hour. What do you think?
I don't know if I have anything. I just went off.
I think we know what Adam wants to jeer. Do you have anything to cheer?
I don't. Boy, I haven't really thought that far out. So maybe if you guys go around, I'll come up with something.
Okay, let me jump in here. I've got the quickest of jeers. That's what we've been talking about. So I'll make it quick. This ugliness, this dysfunction, everything in Saratoga. Can't we all get along? I can't believe I'm quoting Rodney King, but it's a great quote, right? Can't we all just get along? My cheer. Javier Castellano, who is a Saratoga Springs homeowner and also a neighbor of mine, won the Kentucky Derby on Saturday. A Saratogian, he's only a part-time Saratogian, but a Saratogian in my book, and a great guy. I bumped into him walking my dog. Nobody has there's some jockeys that are not great guys. He is a great, wonderful, smart, interesting, accomplished, but he had a big void. He did the Derby 15 times. He never won. That was a big void in his Hall of Fame resume. And there's no longer a void. I'm so happy for him. That's my cheer. Track season's just 2 months away. So that's it.
My cheer, and I only have a cheer this week because I feel like I've done a lot of jeering in this episode. My cheer is for Saratoga Sponsor Scholar and the Derby Day party that we had on Saturday. For people who don't know about Saratoga Sponsor Scholar, it raises money to support economically disadvantaged children in the Saratoga Springs High School who have a dream of going to college, and it supports them financially, academically, through mentoring and so forth to help them achieve their dream of going to college. And this Saturday, we had 375 people at the lodge and raised a record amount of money to support the program and to support the students and to get them into college and help them, pursue their dream and achieve their dream of going to college. And so it was just really inspiring to see that many people. We raised well over $200,000 to see that many people turn out to the lodge to support Saratoga Sponsor Scholar. Was just freaking awesome to know that many people cared, and so I really love it because, we hear so many people talk about this kind of demographic of students in particular, and to see people really put their money where their mouth is and show up and support kids in this way means a lot to me as a Saratogian, and just means a lot and speaks volumes about our community. So I just wanted to give a shout out to everybody who came to thank them, and I hope they come next year and keep supporting Saratoga Sponsor a Scholar. Awesome. So yeah.
I was gonna say I do have a cheer if you're done.
All right, cheer away.
So my cheer, and I didn't properly do my research, but is to Bike at Toga. I'll give a little background of last night. My son's bike, we brought it over there. They have a free bicycle workshop in the basement of the Catholic, was that St. Peter's on Broadway there, next to the Inn at Saratoga. They have a free bicycle workshop, and we brought my son's bike there to get it fixed up. Obviously it's donation based. We donated it. We dropped it off, about a month ago. But when we came to pick it up, there was a line out the door. And it those moves me to tears. It was all our track workers, who were there getting free bikes. And it just was really, it just was amazing to see, the support for that community. and it's really what this community is about. And just seeing these guys ride off on their bikes, going to do the hard work that as Americans we think we're above. It was hats off to Saratoga. You guys are doing the Lord's work. So I'll end up on a positive, mushy note.
I got to interject. My father-in-law volunteers. He's the Spanish-speaking bike mechanic there that talks to the track workers and helps them out.
Oh,
so
is it?
Awesome,
Well, yeah, that is. They do.
Just want to give everybody a heads
great.
up. Quick heads up, everybody. We have got a special episode coming up this Monday at 1 p.m. that is exclusively focused on the school board race. The school board election is next Tuesday, so we are having a Monday show. By the way, Adam, one more zing. I'm not going to let you respond, but one more quick zing. Aaron Leary says, I think you're doing the same thing. A fact is not mud. So no response from you, Adam. Sorry, you don't want to. Not enough time.
I made my point.
Not enough time. Show's over.
Real quick, and not on that, but Tuesday, you said it quickly, Robin. That's the school board elections. I don't care who you're voting for. Vote. There's such paltry amount of people that vote in those elections.
Well, actually, a pretty decent amount come out and vote in those elections.
The
But,
last one got a big
Monday,
turnout.
1 p.m. special Saratoga podcast. We're going to be interviewing school board candidates. We're hoping all the school board candidates come on. We know that's probably not likely, but we're going to do our best to try to get them all on. So Monday, 1 p.m., tune in for school board special episode. Thank you all so much for watching, and we will see you next week.
Stay charming, Saratoga.
Thanks for watching, folks.